What's up, everybody? Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. On my Discord for Patreon supporters, I'm happy to talk about any of my holdings, why I own them, where I see risk and reward, and I'm happy to share my portfolio as well. With that said, even though I've talked about pretty much all of my major holdings here on YouTube many times, I always say whether I own a stock or I don't when I make a video about it. I haven't done a video directly showing my portfolio on YouTube. There's a couple reasons for that. First, I'd like to just keep that for Patreon supporters. But also, I have a rather unusual portfolio. There probably aren't that many people out there with a portfolio similar to mine. It's filled with a ton of unloved companies. I don't want some other investor using my portfolio as a shopping list if they don't have their own independent conviction in these stocks. Deep value is often very ugly. When you look at the companies, you look at the charts, a lot of people are not going to be pleased with what they see all the time. Now, I have my reasons for owning these businesses. I explain and talk about it here on YouTube, and I've done very well with this approach. And today, I'm just going to go over my top 5 holdings. We're not going to do a deep dive. If you want to learn any more about these companies, I'm sure you can just search them on my channel, and you'll find probably multiple videos where I talk about each of them. As always, this is certainly not advice to buy any of these stocks. I just give you my opinion. I tell you what I'm doing with my money. And if you get value out of the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to consider supporting me on Patreon, joining the Discord, or just if you want to make spreadsheets like the ones I have here, then the link to my Patreon will be down in the description. Now, let's get into it. And we'll start with what is currently my largest holding, and that's Kohl's. I know that's going to sound ridiculous to a ton of people that Kohl's, of all companies, is the largest holding in my portfolio. But you have to understand, a lot of the reasons why a stock might be a high weight in someone's portfolio is simply because that company has gone up a ton. It's not necessarily the stock they invested the most money into. For me, Kohl's was a company I was buying between $6 and $9 a share. I've talked before about how this is a low quality business. It is a retailer. There is almost no moat. It's very difficult to have a significant moat as a retailer. But when I was buying Kohl's, I was looking at a company that was still quite cash flow positive. Their earnings are depressed by all the depreciation on their books from the property that they own, which, by the way, they own hundreds of their stores. The net real estate value of the property they are sitting on was, I think, significantly greater than their market cap was when I was buying the stock. It's hard to estimate the value of commercial real estate. Commercial real estate in general has come down quite a lot recently, especially those stores that are in malls. Now, Kohl's, most of their stores aren't actually in malls. Much of their property was purchased 10, 20, even 30 years ago, and a lot of it is worth more than what they're holding it for on their books. They're sitting on billions of dollars in property value, and when I was buying them, this company was trading for under $1 billion. Recently, they've been paying down a ton of their debt. The net debt of $1.4 billion is the lowest it's been in quite a bit. This is where their cash flow is going. It's what I like to see. And I really think Kohl's epitomizes deep value. It is an ugly story. The chart might look great now, but it was certainly ugly when I was buying it, down, 80 to 90%. Now, obviously, the risk reward today at, roughly $23 a share, very different than the risk reward at $6 to $9 a share where I was buying in. I have recently sold some covered calls against my position, so I am looking to lock in some of my gains here. Now, let's move on to my second holding, and this is Caspie. Again, this isn't going to be a deep dive on any of these companies, just a quick overview of my portfolio. And Caspie right now today trading for roughly $80-ish a share. I've bought from 90 to 70 and everywhere in between. The cost today is very close to my cost basis. And Caspie is a very rare business to find. This is a company that is absolutely dominant in multiple segments in its primary geography, which is Kazakhstan. They are a market leader in payments, marketplace, and fintech in the region. So marketplace, they're effectively like the Amazon of Kazakhstan. It's used by virtually every adult in the country. You not only buy things on there, you can use the Caspie app to pay for transactions, to pay merchants, to pay your utilities, to pay for plane tickets. They keep entering more segments, dominating more verticals, and it's an extremely profitable business. In their core market in Kazakhstan, they have roughly 50% operating margins. On top of that, within each segment, they're growing across the board. Marketplace growth in particular has been extremely strong. There's a ton to like about this company, a dominant capital-light business, virtually a monopoly in several of these segments, growing while trading for, roughly a 6 to 7 times multiple on earnings and on cash flow. That is completely dirt cheap. So why is this company so cheap? Well, I think there's two main reasons. One, yes, it's in Kazakhstan. There's country risk, there's geopolitical risk, there is currency risk. That is all certainly real, and it deserves to trade at a discount to certainly a similar Western company. But I think the other reason why Caspie is quite cheap is they suspended their dividend in 2025. I think this caused a lot of investors to sell out of the stock, but the company felt it was a better use of their capital to use their cash flow to expand in Turkey. They bought Hepsiburada, a Turkish marketplace. They're in the process of trying to buy a Turkish bank as well. And they're doing all this without taking on any debt. They're just using their cash flow. The money they make is a hugely profitable company. Management has signaled that shareholder returns will likely continue in 2026, either through dividends or buybacks. And I think it's very likely that this could be a catalyst for the stock. But even if it's not, I'm happy to actually keep adding to Caspie at these prices. I think the company is extremely cheap. It is difficult for me to find another company with similar strength, similar quality and dominance trading for anywhere close to a 6 to 7 times multiple. So that's why I own Caspie. Now, moving on to the third largest holding in my portfolio, and it is StoneCo. This is another company we talked about multiple times on the channel before. I was mostly buying in between $8 and $9 a share almost a year ago. This has been a big winner for us this year. It was more than a double. Now, recently, the stock is down about 25% from its peak. I've done nothing with my shares. I simply continue to hold. StoneCo is a payments processor focusing on small and medium-sized businesses in Brazil. So they have a relationship with merchants. They have these little point of sale terminals here. They process transactions. They take a take rate on those transactions. This payments side of the company, this has been the core business. Now, recently they've expanded their offerings into more of credit and banking. So if you're a merchant, you can get a loan from StoneCo. They've had a lot of growth in this segment. In fact, the company has been growing profitably for years, and meanwhile, the stock was just crushed. Looking at this chart, you'd think that this was a dying company, not a business that has been increasing its revenue the entire time. When we bought into the business, it was trading for roughly 6-ish times earnings. It simply looked dirt cheap. It's still trading for, maybe 8-ish times forward earnings here. It's not as cheap after the increase in price. And payment processors in Brazil, this is a pretty competitive market. On top of that, there is macroeconomic uncertainty in Brazil right now. A lot of people concerned about the economy over there. So certainly not an investment without risk. None of these companies are. But when I bought in, I felt like I was being offered an excellent price. I still think the risk reward looks good today. I plan on continuing to simply hold this stock. Now, the fourth company, this is really ugly, deep value. Global Ship Lease. I've talked about this company several times. They're trading for 3 times earnings. That's not a typo. And in fact, when we bought this company a couple years ago, it was trading for even less. It was about 2 to 2.5 times earnings. They own container ships. They lease these ships out to the large transport companies like Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd. Typically, these leases or charters are a couple years on their ships. It varies. The bigger ships tend to be longer leases. But because they have fixed contract rates on their ships, and most of them are contracted out for several years, you have a very good visibility on their cash flow going forward. And essentially every earnings report for this company for the last several years that I've been following the stock, they basically just say the same thing. They say, yeah, we made the cash that we said we were going to make in the quarter. We've used that cash to pay down debt, to pay out our dividend to our shareholders. And every now and then, they're opportunistically adding to or upgrading their fleet as well. They still have almost $2 billion in forward contracted revenue. That's roughly 2.5 years of forward contract coverage. Again, on a stock that is trading for a 3 times earnings multiple. Now, you have to understand that shipping rates, especially on container ships, are incredibly volatile. I have no clue what rates are going to be like when they have to renew their contracts. When a contract comes up and they have to renew that ship with some transport company, the shipping rates at that time may be way lower. However, when I bought the stock, I was basically looking at a company where, yeah, they had a couple years of forward contract coverage and they were trading for just a couple times yearly earnings. I had no clue at the time what shipping rates would be like in 2025. By the way, container shipping rates currently still relatively strong. I just figured when I bought the stock, my risk was relatively low considering the forward contract coverage. With the dividends included, this has roughly been a double for me, and I just plan to keep holding. I view the situation currently with Global Ship Lease relatively similarly to how I viewed it a couple years ago. Yes, the price is up. Yes, the multiple is just slightly higher. However, I still like this investment. I still think risk reward looks decent. So I'm going to just continue to hold. Now, moving on to the fifth stock. And this one is JD.com, and they are down quite a bit this year, about 20% on the year, but if you're looking at it from the peak, they are down more like 36%. Now, this is a frustrating one for me. It's also a company I've held for a couple years. At its peak, from my cost basis, I was up, 70 to 80% on this stock, and now I've given almost all of that back. At current prices, I'm up less than 10% on this position, and I've mostly just held this entire time. Obviously, with hindsight, I wish I sold at the peak. I did not. For those of you who are not familiar with this company, by revenue, JD.com is the largest retailer in China. They have an absolutely massive network. They really are the Amazon of China. I know some people refer to Alibaba as the Amazon of China, but really it's JD.com. They have thousands of warehouses across the company, a massive infrastructure network. If you live in not even a major city, if you live somewhere that isn't a remote rural area in China, you probably have next day delivery of most goods from JD.com. There is no other company with a logistics network quite like them. Their core business has been growing profitably for years. And yes, this is a very low margin business. You look at these operating margins and you have single digit percentages here. Again, similar to Amazon in the US, where Amazon, their core business, single digit operating margins. But as they scale out, as this business grows, the operating margin has just been creeping up over time. The core business every year, not only is the top line growing, the top line revenue, but the margin, they're becoming more profitable every single year. Management says they see them hitting high single-digit operating margins on this core business. And by the way, this is a company with $28 billion US in cash just sitting on the balance sheet. And in comparison, they have about $8 billion US in debt. They're trading for just 7 times forward cash flow, 8 to 9 times forward earnings. And while they're growing, while they're becoming more profitable, they're also returning capital to shareholders, both in the form of a dividend and also they're buying back stock right now, in the past year pretty aggressively. Now, the elephant in the room with a company like this is that they're based in China. For many investors, I understand why that would be a non-starter, having money invested in a Chinese company. For me, I'm okay having some of my portfolio exposed to China. I just don't ever want that percentage to be too high. Overall, the percentage of my portfolio that's exposed to China is in the single digits, and that's acceptable to me. Now, another company-specific reason why the stock might be down is they've been investing heavily this year into their food delivery business. They're trying to compete with Meituan, which is the market leader there, and also Ele.me, which is Alibaba's food delivery segment. As they've grown this business over the past few quarters, that's really eaten into their cash flow and operating incomes. We see here new businesses. This includes food delivery, and their revenue this quarter, about 15 billion yuan. Operating loss, also about 15 billion yuan. So even though the core business has been becoming more profitable, if you just look at profitability for the company as a whole, it looks like it's gone down a lot. It looks like cash flow has dropped down a ton. Now, it's possible that food delivery will be a black hole of money where cash just goes in and value does not come out. But JD.com has been an extremely well-run business. Management says they're seeing synergies and results already from the food delivery segment. Costs are decreasing quarter over quarter. So I think for now, for me, I'm giving management the benefit of the doubt. I think JD.com continues to look incredibly cheap at current prices. And as you probably guessed, I plan on simply continuing to hold the stock. So as of today, those are my 5 largest holdings. Now, there are several other companies that I've been buying more of recently. A number of the stocks we talked about today, I haven't traded at all in several quarters. So if you want to hear more about what I'm buying, where I see value, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support what I do or make spreadsheets like this, then consider following me on Patreon. Link to that will be in the description. If you agree or disagree or have any thoughts on the companies we talked about today, leave that down in the comments, and I hope to see you all in another video.